Kabbalah. Now, Kabbalah means received. Now, Kabbalah is ancient tradition going right back to the beginning of time. Adam wrote the first book together with the angel Uziel, who dictated. And that was a powerful book because we got in there the secrets how the world really works. Now, a lot of us pick up all sorts of ideas and a way of behaving on the way. But the truth is that everything's written. Remember last time people were here, last time, there's a software. In that software is built the whole of the harmony of the world and the universe. And I gave an example last time. And this sort of my own personal download was, here's the explorer went to Mars. It's been traveling for 8 years. Now, with all the chaos in the universe that the scientists talk about, flying rocks, all sorts of dangerous things that might hit Earth and what's going to happen, it's all built in. It's remarkable, but it's remarkable how it proves the idea that there is harmony. Because the spacecraft wasn't hit and sends photographs back. In other words, everything that is possible is possible. Absolutely everything. If we get an idea in our heads, it doesn't matter what people will say, even scientists. It can't be done, ignore it. In fact, always throughout my life, if somebody said it was impossible, I went for it and it usually worked. And I saw some very interesting things that, for example, when the Wright brothers wanted to fly, the scientists calculated that it's impossible something that heavy in air is going to be able to stay up there. Impossible. But the impossible is possible. Why? Because we have not discovered all of the inner secrets in the world. Look what's been revealed in the last 100 years, 50 years, 5 years, 5 months. All sorts of new ideas, all sorts of forces and energy. Now the scientists are in big trouble on the Big Bang. Now there's a whole argument, well, do we really understand the Big Bang? Does it work like this? I won't go into a scientific discussion, but I make sure that I get papers from academia and the other places so that I can know what's going on. And they're totally confused. In other words, it's a discovery as we move forward in our lives. But most of us are not inventors. We're not looking to conquer space. We want to live our own lives. So how do we apply this to our own personal lives, our relationship with other people, and how we handle our affairs, whatever they are? And that's the most important thing, because how the world really works and the mathematical calculations are there, and you should know that anything is discovered, it is discovered, not invented. Electricity was discovered. All sorts of other forces in nature was discovered because it was already there, built into this system. Now, although there are fights between countries, nevertheless, the whole world works in harmony. Somehow or other, it all works together. So therefore, there's a very good organization behind this. And so Kabbalah, it went on from there. Adam, when he was removed from the Garden of Eden, that's not my subject for today, the scrolls were hidden. And then when Noah came along, it was given to him so as he could build the ark. And imagine, this is above nature. How can you understand an ark of that measurement having so many animals in there and so many birds? It's an impossibility, and yet it happened. Because there's such a thing as inner space. Inner space that a lot of us understand, don't understand, but have to really attach emotionally with it, have to feel it. It's very much like love. Love is felt, it can't be explained logically. Love is felt, love is there, there's an energy. And there's an energy we have in everything in this world. Abraham wrote the book of creation. The book of creation is the mathematical calculations of how everything works. And only now they're beginning to understand a lot of those calculations in there. It's remarkable. It's interesting. But that is Kabbalah, and there are many, many more books and scrolls throughout the ages. I mean, I'm only 80 years old and it's not enough, because all I'm doing is picking pebbles that fall from the mountain. To actually understand the whole of the mountain, the marvelous thing is we know it's there. We know that big force is there that we do not understand, but we have to learn to live with that force. Now, you know what I feel about meditation. I've mentioned it several times. Meditation is very good, but at the end of the day, what do you do for other people in that meditation? Number one. Number two, what does it do for you to change your life? It makes you relax. It makes you feel at ease. It takes you into another world. But at the end of the day, there's much, much more. Meditation is like looking at the tip of the iceberg. It's there, it exists, it's good, and a lot of people do it, but there's much bigger, the iceberg's much bigger under the water that you cannot see. And that's what Kabbalah is about, to reveal to us how to find it. And even if we take it bit by bit, it's important. I can't remember if I told this joke, but it doesn't matter. At my age, I can get away with it. And that is, a woman's husband, they had money to live, but he couldn't find a job. He did nothing, and it was driving her mad. And her friends, she was talking to her friends to get advice on what he should do. One day her friend said, by the way, how's your husband? Oh no, he's found a job. Really? What is the job? She said, I don't really understand what it means, but he called it meditation. So the friend turned around and said, well, it's better than doing nothing all day. Sitting there doing nothing. But what are we talking about? How does this affect us? We all have a software in our brain which is 99% not utilized. We have that in there, it's built in. And many of us know if something happens in our lives, we get inspiration and we don't know where it came from. It's that building, it's that property, it's that friend, it just seems to come out of nowhere. And yet, I'm going to teach you how to actually conjure it up. I'm using the word conjure it up because it fits very nicely. There's a theory that I developed by downloading it because it was there. I discovered it. I couldn't find it on Google, which was actually a good thing, and I'll explain why in a minute. I talked to you about abracadabra. Abracadabra, everyone knows that. Abracadabra, magic. You take Harry Potter, magic. But it's imagination and not real. And yet very few people know that you can have that Harry Potter in real life. Not all the stories that they have, but in other things that we need. Things that we need in our business, in our work, in our relationships with our children, with our parents. There's so many different things that is chaos. We all have to try to deal with this all the time. It's like, as I described, sitting on a riverbank, and there's millions of fish passing by all the time. Thoughts and decision making in your head streaming in all day long. It's not only decide what you're going to wear today, but which way you're going to go. Yesterday, I like to go for a walk because it's good. And I walked up the Golden Screen Station and then I walked back again. Now, had I been a minute earlier or a minute later, I would not have met a friend that I had not seen for years. Doesn't even live here, lives in Israel. Now, I didn't think about him. I never conjured it up. But I can give you stories where that happened as well. Now, it is that minute, it's that moment that makes a difference in our lives. And we have to know no accident is an accident. It just does not happen. That things happen, but it's not just happenstance. There's a reason behind it. Sometimes we have to get a bang on the side of the head to wake us up. Sometimes we're going through our lives and doing nothing and not really achieving anything and are very happy with our position. But all of us has continuously asked ourselves, why are we alive? Why are we here? Why did somebody else die and somebody else live? Why? I'm going to link it also to Anabakoth. Now, many of you have already tried it. I've sent you the music, I've explained how, and I've got literally hundreds of people in different parts of the world where they really found that it helped them. It helped them to change things. So I'm going to link all of this together, and what we're going to do is to go deeper into this. We know that we get energy from the sun, and from this you get energy coming down into the trees, which gives us oxygen, which gives us life. Everything grows because of that energy. Even we walking around need that energy, which is in the exact right measurements coming into us or coming to everything around in nature. Everything is a harmony. Just think of a tree. A tree is standing there quietly, but it's not really. It's doing a lot of work. Because not only is it giving us it takes the energy, converts it to oxygen, we've got oxygen. But what do we breathe out? Poison. The tree absorbs it. So the more trees that you plant, the better it is for the whole world. It's like I call it the air conditioning of the world. And I've just taken the tree. But nothing is in this world. And I'm going to share something with you very interesting. Professor Hawkins just died. He is an example of a man who could overcome reality. His sheer determination. He's a man who couldn't speak, completely crippled, in a chair, and he wrote a bestseller that opened up the doors to many people to understand science. And in that bestseller he wrote, when he really became known, he said, there is this harmony in the world, and when I see the way everything works, it's all put there only for one reason, for man's benefit, that this planet can work. And he came to that conclusion. Well, that's as near as he got, because the next book he discovered more, and he says, I don't need a God, there's no God. And of course now he's in a university where he's really learning a lot now. Now he's learning a lot. But I'm taking that as an example. We see this with Einstein, we see this with a good many scientists. As they came towards the end of their life, they realized there was a harmony there, and there's no happenstance. We need to realize that as well. Now, a lot of people deal with healing. They deal with all sorts of other things. I'm not into that. However, our mind needs healing all the time, because we're confronted by challenges. Somebody makes us upset. Sometimes it's the bank, and sometimes it's the wife or the husband, and sometimes in your everyday lives. And it's chaos. And we have to ask ourselves, why should we be upset? Because what does it mean at the end of the day? Now, I coined a little phrase, it was a download this week, right? Let the brain drain the pain. The brain knows how to do it. It's all automatic. You have to give it instructions. You have to give it instructions, and trust me, the brain knows what to do. It's got brilliant software. It can do anything, absolutely anything. We see this in the inventions. We see this how people come out with remarkable things, whether it's psychology or philosophy or hypnosis. But what is the source? The source is within the Kabbalah. You will find that Freud, Adler, towards the end of their lives, called the Kabbalah a gold mine. Because I didn't have to study Freud, although I've read it. I wanted to do some comparisons. Or many of the other great psychiatrists, I didn't have to study because it was already, I learned it in Kabbalah. What they've done is picked up the way a mind and a brain works. Now, one of the most powerful things is self-hypnosis. Hypnosis is a remarkable thing, and what you can do with that self-hypnosis. We sometimes wonder to ourselves, how did I achieve this? Sometimes you do something and then you look around and say, how did I get up here? How did I get to that point? It happens to all of us, all of the time. We have no logical explanation sometimes, but we're there. I want to tell you a few stories so we get the idea of what I'm talking about. You take, first of all, Milton Erickson, world famous hypnotist, brilliant man. I must tell you that I've lapped up all of his teachings. Brilliant. Unfortunately, he passed away in 1960. But he picked up from Kabbalah how to do what I'm going to tell you. But he also was born with it. Now, this is an interesting thing. We're talking about souls, right? Souls have a power. Souls are there. There is no, souls are all the same. It doesn't matter what color, gender, religion, male and female, rich and poor. It doesn't matter where you come from. Everybody has a soul. The question is, what do we do with that soul? Do even any of us recognize that it's there? Or if we recognize it's there, do we understand what it means? Very complicated. Very complicated, but we have to go into that step by step. We cannot learn this overnight. But it's interesting, as psychiatrists, the word psycho in Greek is a soul. So when you're dealing with psychology, some of them have forgotten this already, they're in fact dealing with the health of a soul. That's what they're in. People ask me, what business are you in? I'm in the soul business today. I was in many other things in previous lives, but this time around. But right now, that's what we're in. Help people find their soul. Because once you found your soul, you're able to make the changes that you need to make. So let me get back to Erickson. When he was 15, now his soul knew what he was doing. In other words, it's like famous musicians start at the age of 5 writing music, writing or understanding maths at a very young age. Why? Because it's the soul that's got all the information inside there, and it's just coming out. What happened to him at the age of 15? He was one of the early people who were hit with polio. And he's in the hospital bed, and he overhears the doctor say to his mother, he will not be alive in the morning. Now, he was completely out. In other words, they thought that he couldn't hear anything. And then signal went, but he still could signal. And he asked his mother, through the way they communicated, because he wasn't completely gone, not completely. So he asked his mother, please move this wardrobe away from the window. I want to see the sunset. And he made up his mind, he's going to see the sunset and many sunsets after this. He had to link to the energy of the sunset, because why do we enjoy seeing the sunset or the sunrise? Because there's an energy there that goes right deep inside of us. He was alive the next day, and for the day after that, but he was still, couldn't move, completely paralyzed. But his mind worked. So what did he do? He started to concentrate on the past. When he was a kid and he could use a bat, a baseball bat, or he could climb up in the trees, and he started to concentrate on feeling his fingers first. And very, very slowly he could move them slightly. Why? Because the brain that has a memory was reacting to that. Anyway, within 18 months he was out of the bed on crutches. And he had a bout of polio later on. He went on to study, he became a medical student, then he went on to psychology, and he moved on to hypnotism. But all of this we actually find in Kabbalah. How to do it. And I'm only giving you the short, I'm just sort of skipping along to give you examples. Rav Berg, who some of you have heard of, who founded the Kabbalah Center, and we were very close, and we learned a bit together, but not a lot. He was hit with a stroke, and the frontal lobe was actually destroyed. And they said, look, we may as well, because it was completely out, we may as well just take off the life support, there's no point. So his wife said, you don't know who this man is. You keep him on life support. Within a year, he was up normal, giving talks and dancing, and he was Jewish dancing, not Muslim dancing, okay? And he was completely back. He had that power to get the brain functioning again. Now, we all have that power. Anything we want to do, if we really concentrate on it and really direct our mind, we are able to do. Because the body, the way it's made, has built-in tiny little factories. When there's a problem, the little factory units go out there and start fixing it. But there's one problem. If the mind does not realize and strongly accept that whatever is being done for them is going to work and going to cure them, it's not going to work. In other words, the interesting thing is, and we now come back to abracadabra. Abracadabra, I will create what I speak, what I say. The ancient Aramaic. That really goes right back to the time of Abraham, where we learn this. Be careful what you say, because something could blurt out and it's going to happen, negative or positive. Now, once we grasp this, it makes a big difference. Alice knows that in the house, I don't want to hear any negativity at all. I don't want to hear it. Why? Because it can affect you. Just saying, giving the negativity, and this is not motivational, this is real life. Because if somebody makes up their mind, like the story with Berg, or like the story with Milton Erickson, and tens of thousands of other stories, but I don't have to give you because you yourself have heard of examples of this, and you say, wow, a miracle happened. But I've actually seen them. And you know what hit home with me? Two things I want to share. When I had a major heart attack, and I, like everybody else, determined to live, but I believed it. That's the whole point. 99.9% blocked in the main artery, but they caught me in time. Because there's a big boss who wants me to carry on. I was in the synagogue across the road, 20 past 9, I'll never forget this. And I got a real pain, and I was sweating. And there were two people there from Hatzalah, which is the Jewish ambulance service. They were praying. They saw me and they came along and said, look, do you want to go to hospital? Because this is what's happening. We have the ambulance outside. An hour and a quarter after the heart attack, I was being wheeled out of the theatre. I was okay. When people asked me, and even these ambulance drivers, I said, I got a pain, but you know what? It's my heart's problem. I'm carrying on. I got a lot to do. It's my heart. And I really, Berg once said to me, be very careful. Don't blow it. Because right at the time when you need to have the personal determination, don't blow it. Now, by separating yourself from the actual problem, the pain is there. My heart has a problem, but you know what? The way it's built, everything can be fixed. Everything can be fixed. Sometimes you need the medical help as well. Of course, it's natural, and because that's why with this part of harmony, the big boss put doctors and scientists and medical experts into this world and gave us equipment, CT equipment, etc. All these things that could be put there are there for a reason, and nobody should say, well, I can heal naturally. You can, but you also have to decide healing naturally is what you did with yourself before you got ill. How were you before you got ill? You're now ill. So we got to do something urgently to fix this. It's very, very difficult for natural to take over at that point. And it's risky as well. Very risky. At least I wouldn't risk anyone who's close to me. Some people do, and unfortunately, yes, there's a miracle here or there, but it was going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. The other thing that happened to me, which drove this whole point home to me, why am I alive? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do with my life? Is what I'm doing really why I was born? I'm going to hold a mobile in my hand for the rest of my life, and it's always, tied up with that, or share dealing and a day trader, and I don't know, every one of us have to examine what we do and say, wait a minute, was I really born for that? I'm sure I can do much, much more. So when I had an open heart operation, two interesting things happened. One was, I was woken up 10 hours after the operation started, and they said to me, okay, fine, it was successful, you're okay, now it's recovered. So I said, but wait a minute, I knew nothing about the operation. I remember that I was sitting in the room where they give you anesthetic. I don't remember anything happening at all. The next minute I'm being woken up. 10 hours cut out of my life. Now, at the same time, I have a very, very close friend who a few years before this had the same operation in the same hospital. He did not survive. He was younger than me. Because open heart operation is a 50-50 chance of not surviving it. And I was told, I said, what will happen if I don't do it? He says, well, there's a 50-50 chance you won't survive. So I said, you know what, I'll take the other one where you actually active. But what did it drive home to me? Even more to ask that question. So, okay, fine. I'm alive. He's younger than me. Why? What have I got to do? And now I'm doing it. I write books, I help people, and I come back again to Ana B'Koach and Abracadabra. Some of the people sitting here, I've taught them, and it started to change their life. Great things are happening in their life. Why? Because when you do the abracadabra, I don't call it meditation, but I call it reflect, connect, mind direct. We have to reflect, we have to connect to our soul and all the forces in nature, and direct our mind to that, what we want to achieve. Now, when we do it, we must not think of the problem in our life at that moment. I don't know what to do. You sometimes got you're not feeling well, you've got a problem with your husband or your wife, you've got many things happen and it's complete chaos and it takes you over. The worst thing is, well, my mother once said to me, look, it's bad enough you broke your leg, but you have to start worrying, oh, my leg hurts, and all the time you end up with ulcers or something else. When the leg's repaired, you still got the ulcers. Well, it wasn't worth it. In other words, it's like being in traffic. You're in a traffic jam. You're hooting or getting nervous or getting angry or getting upset isn't going to move the traffic any faster. But perhaps under the Koch will. Perhaps under the Koch will. Now, because I've seen it work hundreds of times, not once or twice, and there's a few people here who can actually say, yes, it worked for me. Completely changed their lives. And it's worthwhile looking into. Now, it's well known in the Hadassah Hospital in Israel and the several other, Hadassah's a world famous university hospital. There, they've had people who had terrible illness, the doctors couldn't do anything about it. And they crowd the whole ward, a whole lot of people pack themselves in, Kabbalists, and they do the Anabakor. And there are absolute miracles. And I think last time I told you the story of somebody who was a member of the Margaret Thatcher's government, who was very close to me. Unfortunately, he passed away. Very close. And his mother was very ill in the early days where you had cancer and they just didn't do anything. They used you for research, that's all. You had to sign a paper and you did research. And this happened before I met him. But you know, sometimes there are some priests in the Christian world who have learnt about that power. And they packed 100 people into this little croft house. And non-stop all night. When the doctor came in the morning, it wasn't there. Now, I'm not dealing in miracles, because maybe 99% of the cases, it would be there. Because sometimes the answer is no. So what we have to do is try to, just like when you're ill, you have to believe the medicine or the cure or whatever is being done for you is going to work for you. There's all sorts of special exercises that are supposed to make you relax, give you a longer life. And some of you are involved in this. But it only works if that person absolutely believes in it, but certainty, absolute certainty. If they don't have that certainty, absolute certainty, it's not going to work. It just can't work. Now, it isn't only in health, but it's many other things in life. When you realize that life does not go in a straight line, it keeps coming back and repeating itself. It might be generation after generation. In other words, we say sometimes, well, he reverted back to type. You can see a nice young man, you look at his parents and say, my God, the father was drinking or gambling or, and he's a decent guy and against it. And as he gets older, suddenly he reverts back to type. It's a circle, it goes around. History repeats itself going around all the time. Human beings haven't changed. Whatever's changed in this world, they're still the same. And it's a cycle continuously going around and around, not in a straight line. Now, so we find it with ourselves. There is an energy that we can draw down to ourselves. Now, many of you have this happen to you, and you didn't realize what it was. Now, I'm now going to dwell a little bit before I come back to Anabakor, Abracadabra, is each one of us goes through stages of real death. And you take the Second World War, millions and millions of people die. Out in the battlefield, not only in the gas chambers. they died, or starvation. But there were millions and millions of people who were saved. They were saved. That too was a miracle. Mainly it was people, and I can't say in every case, but the stories that I know, and probably you all know the stories, is when a person did not give up hope. However bad it is, you do not give up hope. The minute you give up hope, then all is lost. Now, it could be in getting a job. It could be starting a new career. It's not only health. It could be many things. Finding somebody, a partner in life, a soulmate. If you give up hope, you're finished. And I've had some people talk to me on the phone. They say, I've given up and I don't believe in people anymore. I said, you've got to start believing in yourself. That's the place to start. Not in other people. You have to believe in yourself. So how do we start changing ourselves to make all this, call it magic, work? And that is, we have to recreate ourselves in our own personality. And there's several things I want to share. Number one, I spoke about energy. Now we're drawing down energy, and then energy, we get up in the morning, we're tired, we can't move. So what do? You sleep a bit more. Or I'm not feeling well. Or I've got a pain, wow, I think there's a repetition, it's going to happen to me again. Or it happened to my father or to my brother. And suddenly we go around with this fear. This fear brings it about. So we have to change ourselves. And there are a few simple things to do. A lot of people don't realize the value. Let's talk about the energy. Energy that's being drawn down. Anabakor actually draws the energy down, filters it through to our level. Because the energy is too great. The energy that's going through is too great for us to handle. We can't handle it. So we have to draw it down, and it goes through 7 different stages till it gets down to our level. What the Anabakor does, and I'm going to teach you how to do it, is helps you to draw down that energy through these different levels into yourself. So number one, you've got to draw, but you've got to be a vessel to receive that energy. How do you become a vessel to receive that energy? There are several things. One is to remove your own ego from the scene. Now it's very hard. Everybody suffers from an ego in one form or the other. You have to remove that ego. Now you say, but I can't help it. It's part of my makeup. I'm very proud when something is done, but then when you stop to think and say, wait a minute, where did that idea come from? You were, let's call it lucky. An opportunity came. It's not that you invented that opportunity. The opportunity came and it was just for you and you took it. And it could be a taxi driver who suddenly gets, it's not because he was driving around and giving people a nice service. It's because it happens. You attract it to yourself because you believe with absolute certainty. And it's on all levels of life. But that energy flows in one way. And that's why we have to make ourselves into the right vessel. The energy flows from right to left throughout the body. Just like with electricity. What happens when you take negative and positive and put them together? Blows up. But if you have it going around and it's got a filament in the middle, that energy then goes right, left, through the filament, gives you light. Your cell, which has got quite a complicated makeup, needs energy to, a little tiny cell in anything, everything has cells. So the energy moves from right to left. It could be in a circle, it could be a straight line, it depends what's involved. That's getting into too much the scientific side of it. But we know for a fact everything is going to be right to left. Now, whenever you, for example, there are some people in some religions, they put their hands together, the minute it touches, there's a short, it actually affects you. Many of us don't realize we're suddenly feeling heavy, we're feeling tired, we're not feeling well, we're feeling nervous. It's the way the energy is flowing. So we've got to be able to make sure the energy flows right. In order to get that energy flow right, everything has got to be right to left. For example, you mustn't put your hands together, but you want it to flow properly, you go like that. Right? And then it will flow properly. So some people in prayer and in other things, person like that. When you feel tensed up, get it to flow properly. Now, I showed you a couple of months ago that if you take your hand and you just separate like that, you eventually can feel the energy going through. Why not? Let's try it again. Take your hand like this, but don't let them touch. Close.
The magnet.
And gradually you'll feel the energy between your hands flowing. It's flowing, by the way, right to left. You feel the energy? Right? Now, that is an energy which goes across. But if you go like this, you can feel the energy in your hand. I don't want to do the other thing because I don't want to create a short. Now, it goes as far as doing this. And a lot of people laugh at it, a lot of people don't take it seriously, but trust me, it's serious. And you know, sometimes I'm told what to do and I don't argue. If they say do this, and they're an expert and I'm trusting them, I'll follow their advice. Because otherwise, what's the point of asking for advice or paying for advice? So we're told, first of all, when you're walking anywhere, then make sure you're not going left to right. Go right to left. You put on your shoes in the morning, your socks in the morning, right foot first, left foot after that. And it's got to a point with me that if there's a mistake made, you know, when I was in the hospital bed, I had to have help to put on my socks. And I always told them right to left, didn't explain. And I actually felt it in my body, because after a time you got your body used to that flow of energy. And that's why, for example, in Jewish law, that comes all the way back from Abraham's time, everything's got to be right. Everything. And a lot of people, leave me alone, this is for... No, if you use it, if it's there, use it. And those people can tell the difference, and they make a mistake and do it the other way round, it can affect their day. Because that energy, you have a fight with somebody. It's an energy there, it's a negative energy. Why are you having that fight? Sometimes you can't control it. And sometimes you have no idea why you did it. In other words, you first of all flare up and get angry. And then afterwards, you'll either justify, but you really have no idea why you got angry. So you give all sorts of stories. But it starts off that way. And the biggest mistake is that negative energy is when you blurt something out, maybe because you're not feeling well. The energy is stuck. In other words, that energy has got to flow right throughout the body. And eventually I'll teach you how to do that exercise as well. But that energy now is somewhere, you've got a bad shoulder. The energy is not flowing through there properly. So it affects you, gives you pain, but it also makes you nervous. Now, there's one thing, nobody can describe the illness or the pressure they have. There isn't a man who really understands and feels what a woman goes through once a month. Impossible. It can be described, but you can't actually feel it. The difficulties that somebody have in their work, you can describe it, but unless you're doing the same thing, you can't feel it. You can be sympathetic, you can want to help them, but at the end of the day, what's going on inside, I remember with my heart problems. So the pain and the feeling that was going with it, I couldn't describe to anybody except if I found somebody who had the same problem. And this is the biggest spoiler of relationships, because it puts in there a negative energy. You've got a pain in your hip. That means the energy is not flowing properly through you. There are ways to handle that, but it's not flowing properly. And if it's not flowing properly, it makes you nervous. So you can blurt out and say, get impatient with somebody, or leave me alone. And it's somebody you love and somebody who loves you. But when they react, because everybody's got an ego, so they react and shout back. And then what happens is you shout back again. And suddenly there's a big fight. What I used to say to Alice years ago, hey, wait a minute, okay, you know what? You're right. You're right. I don't know what you're talking about, but you're right. But what's the end game? What do you want to achieve by this fight? Why do we need to bother to fight? We love each other, so why do we need? Let's find out what you want to achieve. What is the end game for this fight? And when you sit down and you think it through, it wasn't necessary, and if you face it, it was caused by something else and not by your partner or not by your children. You suddenly, a mother's overwhelmed, she's nervous, she's tired, she's been up all night with a little baby, and suddenly, or the husband has got something, or one of the other children, and they're in the firing line. But what did the kid do? Well, the kid doesn't understand. Maybe they don't love me. So what we've got to do is to try and annul that ego. That's not an easy thing to do. But you know, we have there's an expression that's been used in the English language, people making love. What does making love mean? You're making it up. You're going through the motions. That's making love. It's gone down to a much lower level in today's society as well, where they'll accept not getting married, accept not building a permanent relationship with each other, with marriage or without it, and they're making love. So they used to call it a one-night stand, or 2 or 3 or 4. But what are they doing? It's artificial, it's meaningless. What we have to do is to go around and just give love to everybody without expecting anything in return. Because what happens is, if you're dealing with the right person, that person will also treat you in the same way. You worry about them, you don't worry about yourself. I once mentioned to you, and I want to repeat this rule because it's extremely important. How do you recognize a good person in your life? Is somebody who knows that he's receiving in order to give. Because a person who is giving in order to receive is not very honest, and you have to be careful. A lot of people do that. You know, they build up brownie points. And now, you see, I can go in and ask for whatever I want. That person is dangerous. The relationship is not genuine. The worst one is somebody who wants to receive for himself alone. Accumulate. You're there for him, everything there is for him. And we know in our lives how many people like that. But what we have to do, if we want to make ourselves a vessel for that energy that I'm talking about, to make an abracadabra really work, the anak bakor really work, then we have to change our way of dealing with everybody. Everybody, first of all, is with love. That's all. I'm treating people the way I want you to treat me. Of course, I always used to say that, you know, love your neighbor as yourself. But if you don't love yourself, then you've got a poor neighbor. He's stuck. And what we have to do is to think of that carefully. Now, it's not easy, because all of us are used to the way of behaving. But you know, there are a lot of people who are lonely. I tell you, when I used to have meetings, I'm talking about with top people. And I remember the first time I sat with the President of the Dominican Republic. I became his advisor later on. I sat down, and here's a meeting which I've been waiting for a long time. I didn't realize that he was also waiting for it. And I looked at his face. He wasn't relaxed. And I said to him, look, let's move our agenda aside for the moment. Let's talk about you. Is something bothering you? No, everything's all right. I said, I can see it, I can feel it. Remember, I'm in the soul business, and then I was in business. Okay, I was a consultant. And I got through to him, and then he told me about his problems. He could afford to tell me, because I have no political involvement with him, and I'm not family, so there was no danger of him being very honest and open with me. Every single meeting I've had, and it doesn't matter who it is, You're going now to a meeting with the bank, or you're going to meet somebody else that you need something from. If you see that they are tensed up, that there's something wrong, they're not tensed up because of you, they've got some problem, they're not feeling good. I always turn around and say, put this aside. We're human beings. You don't look relaxed. And there's a basic principle. I like to compare the mind with a computer. You can't feed information into a computer while it's working, it's sorting itself out. How many times you've had it's updating itself and it says you can't do anything anyway. And it drives you mad because they decide when it's going to be done and you've got something to do and you can't use it, it's impossible. Forget about it. Same with human beings. Cannot upload anything to someone else if they got a lot in their mind they need to download. So let them talk, listen to them. Let them talk first, it doesn't matter why you're there. Let them talk. This happens in families, with children. We don't give our children opportunities to talk. We don't understand, we don't treat them as friends until they're a bit older. But as kids, yeah, we love them and we play with them, but at the end of the day, they're a human being, they're a separate soul. They chose to come down into your family in order for that soul to build itself up. Listen to them. Treat them as an adult. Don't talk baby talk when you're small. The importance of everything I'm saying is this. We have to start working on ourselves if we want to make a serious change. We have to ask ourselves, do I want to continue living the way I've been living? How do I handle my problems? A severe illness in the family or a close person close to us passing away. How do I handle this? I'm alone, there's nothing I can really do about it. But what you need to do is to talk it through. You need to let someone else download what's on their heart or in their mind. First of all, if you let them do it, doesn't matter whether you agree with them or not. That's not the point. We work on the basis that everyone is honest. I believe even, and I don't take any politics because I don't have any argument for anybody here, and that is Corbyn really believes that he's right and everything he has to say is true. He is not making it up. I don't trust him. He's dangerous. He's got his whole mind and life twisted. But that's him. But on the other hand, he believes. You go to anyone who is for you or against you. You got in your own family and you don't like how they talk or how they behave or what they have in their mind. You must first of all start off by saying, look, I don't understand, nor do I agree. But please tell me more about it, because I respect your ideas. And you have to respect other people's ideas, even if you don't agree with them. You don't fight with them, and you listen. Now, here you're getting them to download. Now you can upload after that. They will let you talk because you gave them that same respect. Try it, it works. It worked beautifully. So we have got to make ourselves a vessel in order to be able to receive this energy that's coming down all of the time. Now, abracadabra is another important thing that we have to remember every moment of our lives. Never to think negatively, never to speak negatively, because it's very dangerous. It works simply. You know, when you have a computer, whatever instructions you give the computer, it works on its own software. So if you miss something out, or you ask for the wrong thing, or ask Mrs. Google for something and you don't word it properly, you get something else. So you've got to think very carefully how to put it in. So you don't always get out of life what you wanted because you said something negative. And then the negative comes about. I promise you, the negative comes about. But whenever you, in everything you do, There's absolute certainty. You're taking on a new project. You're dealing with a new person. You're dealing with a new employee. Don't say, oh, well, let's see how they work out. No. I believe that person is working with it. He is going to succeed. Now, that person you're employing or working with feels that energy, feels the positive energy you have about them. And that's so important. After all, you do it in your own work, you suddenly have a feeling, I can't work with this guy, I can't trust him. Somebody walks in the room, a very nice guy, and you have a feeling either empathy, you feel good, you feel comfortable with that person. It happens to you, it happens to everybody. And other people, you walk in the room, he hasn't done anything, you don't know him. And you've got a feeling you don't trust him, or even he could be dangerous. People are born with different levels. People are born as psychics. You can't give it, they're there. So there's certain things that when you're looking at something, you get that strong feeling. Each one has got their own blessings in life. And if you work on it, it can happen on the level that your soul is capable of doing. Not everybody has that capability, but what I do have is the capability on yourself. But that wasn't the story I was telling. And not the manager was not important. Because what was missing here, there was too much ego and not enough love and caring. If each one of us in our lives would love and care about the other. I'm dealing with hundreds of people in different parts of the world who things change. Now I taught them how to do it. 3 weeks ago on Thursday night, we had 250 people on a podcast together, where not only I explained to them, but also we did Anabakor, and we drew down energy and directed it towards Cara, that was her name, directed towards her. Now, they had organized around about 100 people should be in the Children's Cancer Hospital in Mexico. So I said, you know what? We're also going to direct our energy not to children, but to the families. Because the families are the one who needs the most support. For them to be able to handle this situation, they need that support. And so we pulled down energy and directed, and it had a fantastic effect. Not on everyone, because you've got to believe in what you're doing. But the fact that they participated was already halfway down. That was halfway in the journey. But we have a lot of other people in different parts of the world. Well, I'll give you an example. I give you an example because he came to visit a short while. He has MS. He has MS and vertigo. So anybody, you can know from the outside what this means. Thank God none of us have experienced this, but maybe we've experienced this with a member of the family. It's a mess, and I won't go into the whole thing. But part of it was he had to have a catheter all the time and a special device on his stomach to be able to go to the bathroom normally, and he had to put a tablet in there. Now, I've been working with him for 2 years. He does this under Bakor 3 times a day the last 2 years. Now, what I've taught him is compartmentalizing each problem, putting them separate, concentrating on that. I told him, it's taken a long, long time. It took about 6 or 8 months just on this one compartment, and that was a catheter. And I said, I want you to imagine, forget about the catheter. Imagine that you are functioning without it. Just remember the old days before you had this when you were a kid. Just put the pictures in your mind, put those pictures strongly in your mind, concentrate on the time when it actually worked. Let the brain do the rest. Because you don't know how to govern that. But the brain has got the built-in soul. It knows what to do. And it's not just coming from it. This is something deep in the Kabbalah. And it's used by hypnotherapists. It's used. And you also taught self-hypnosis, which is all part of the same thing. The method is used in all consultations in one form or the other. 6 weeks ago, took out the catheter. No catheter. The doctors have no explanation. It's not miracle cures, because any hypnotherapist working with a patient who really believed it can work has done and can do the same thing. I mean, Milton Erickson, he was the founding father of this hypnotherapy. It was unknown. People weren't taking it seriously when he was a young man. He started it. But now, enormous number of people in the world use it. But where did they get it from? And there are many, many cases. It's not miracles. It's just mind over matter. You can call it a miracle. If you think it's a miracle, forget about it. Forget about it. It's real. It's directing the energy. Now he told me last week he stopped putting a tablet in because he can go by himself. Again, a therapist could possibly have done the same thing, and they do it with people, good ones, sincere ones, who are there not just for the fees, but want to help people, and they take the fees in order to live, because everybody needs to live. So here is a case, and he's had many, many other challenges that have helped him, but he's still got his MS. You can't take that MS away from him. It's still there because it's in his DNA. But he's learning to live with it. That's the point. You learn to live with it. Now, I'm not going to go through every case, but there's a few people here, which I won't, because they haven't given me permission, but they have their own story to tell. And in one of the next books that are coming out, I'm going to put in their stories without giving you. I know it's worked on me. I can tell you I've been in dangerous situations in my life, and I can describe one situation now, where I really, you can say, well, just good luck. But there's danger, and I did tell you, I think 2 months ago, the story with the mafia, right? And you know what? I said, I separated them in a protective circle, and I walked across with that thought in my mind, knowing I will succeed. And yet there were a lot of guerrillas standing around the walls ready to shoot anybody who got near their boss. Nothing happened. And I managed actually to succeed and save a friend. But I told that story. So I'm going to tell you another story, because this is in real life. In my consulting period of my life, and when I was building, I actually created a new public company. I'm not going into the whole story because that will be in one of my books, but that's not important for this right now. Now, whenever before I have a meeting with someone, I always do reflection, connection, mind, direction. And I made up my mind. It was absolutely impossible to get this public company formed. How we did it, the downloads and inspiration I got to get it done, just fitted into place one after the other. Now I said to the team, look, we have to buy a public company in Switzerland. We have to take controlling shares. Why? Because it'll link up. Because Switzerland, that company's in Germany, but Switzerland is on a different level for the work we want to do. So they laughed at me and they said there's nothing available. So I said, no, you call in specialists. So they called in one of the top people from the stock exchange. They called in, well, one of the real top lawyers who knew what was going on. They said, forget about it. The banks have taken them over. There's nothing that exists. And I turned around and said, it does. Otherwise I would not have got that download that it does. I wouldn't have got it. I got that download. Anyway, they carried on looking, but they got nothing. One day, I had somebody who was a bit of a nuisance, but because I had the attitude, always listen out for messages. It could be a very simple person, including the milkman, who can suddenly blurt something out and say, gee, I was looking for that. And you've got a solution. You never know where that message is going to come from. So treat people with the same respect, the same love. It doesn't matter what they do in your life. He could be a driver, he could be a street sweeper. I treat everybody the same, and I talk to them as well. Make them feel good. Somebody comes around collecting for charity, I say, you know what? You should carry on distributing good deeds. Now, usually they don't treat them like that, but you have to show them love because they go away and feel good and they'll remember you. So this guy, I said, you know, I can only give you 15 minutes. It wasn't because of ego, just I didn't have the time. And anyway, what he had to offer, so I let him speak. He told me what he had to offer. And it so happened that I had a client who could be interested in that. I said, you know what? Give me everything, I'll give it to him, and then you'll deal with him direct. As he's walking out the room, he said, by the way, are you interested in taking control shares of a very, very small public company on the stock exchange? Now, I wasn't surprised, because I knew it was there. How did I know it was there? I knew it was there. You have to learn much more, how to get there. But I did the reflection, connection, mind direction. And it's so powerful before everything, before every meeting, I did it. Now I do it automatically because it doesn't take long. It's, you know, I've got it so much in my head, it's repeating, you know, many, many things. If you repeat it enough, it's all even the exercises are all automatic. And here he was. Of course, I played safe. I said, right, you're signing a document now, and I fixed the amount of fees he's going to get. So he doesn't go to friends and they start saying, why don't you charge more? So I settled that straight away. But here was somebody that you least expected it from. But I knew it was there because I would not have got this firm message in my mind. Now, this could be going to get a job, and I'm going to tell that story as well. And that's enough on that side stories. I then want to get into the connection, reflection, mind, the reflection, connection, mind, direction, and the abracadabra. And let's see what we can do. You always read newspapers as that. I always looked out for opportunities different times in my life because I was always have been an adventurer. And I saw that ITT had a community development division. And they were selling an enormous amount of properties, mainly time sharing. But I mean, ITT is a gigantic company. We're running into billions of dollars all over North America. And I noticed on the report, they're not saying nothing outside the country. So I drew up a plan. And I wrote to them and said, look, you've got 375,000 employees worldwide. You've got them all over the world. I want to organize through each one of those offices because they own Charbel and Avis Rent-A-Car and Sheraton Hotels and 1,000 companies that size. I said, we can use them. I wrote it. I didn't hear for about 3 months. So what did I do? I got on the plane and flew to New York. I found out first that he's the manager or director I needed to see was in his office. And I flew with no appointment. I walked into the office and I went to the secretary and I said, look, I want you to do me a favor. Give your boss this envelope. I'd taken my card, I'd written on the back, please give me 15 minutes of your time and I'm paying $100 for your time. $100 is like $300-400 today, more. And I put it in, I wrote that note and she laughed and she took it into him. They had double doors, they swung open and he said, I want to see this crazy guy. But I got no time, 10 minutes. I said, okay, fine, 10 minutes. But if you want to see me after that, you're paying. Well, you know, he cancelled all of his appointments and we spent 48 hours together. It then took time, but I got the contract international sales director all over the world using the ITT image, which in fact, that's all I did. When you show people their image, then you can sell anything. And I built up a large team and anyway. That is a story on its own. But what I'm telling you, I went with certainty, absolute certainty. I've had cases where somebody would say, who gave you permission to call? I'm talking about the chairman of GEC, right? General Electric. Large companies who gave you permission. That's how egotistic they were. But I knew one thing: if I walk in with the right thing at the right time, it can be done. Because many, many times in life, if you get that download, that feeling, and it doesn't have to be on this level, it can be on the smaller level. You want to get married. You don't want to be lonely. People give you all sorts of ideas, and then suddenly an idea comes in your head. Instead of concentrating on your own worries, on your own, the effects of life on you personally, don't concentrate. You cannot change facts if somebody has passed away, or there's a major illness in the family. Don't think of changing the facts for the moment. Yes, you have to get up and fight, and you have to find different ways to handle it. But at the same time, you have to get on with your life. I must tell you this: Alice has been through a very serious operation, and her attitude never put herself at center stage. First of all, people don't want to hear your stories, how many times they can hear, right? They're not really interested, but they're being kind to you, and then suddenly they're visiting you less and less, and now you're even more lonelier than you were before. Don't take it off center stage. A person comes to visit you because you've had an operation or you're ill. Put them on center stage. They'll feel much better about it. That's what I'm talking about. No ego and free love. I don't mean free love as it's described, because that's not love. It's very far from being love. It's using each other. That's all it is. Free love is to give love, not in order to receive, because you're receiving all the gifts in this world to give to other people. So we have to ask ourselves, why am I alive? And what am I doing with this that I'm doing right now? And how can I expand it and reach more people? That applies to your work and your work. How do I reach more people? How do I help more people? How do I spread this word? How do I train other people to do what I'm doing? Because if you're at this stage, you've got to say, wait a minute, is that all? That's it? Because the most frightening thing is to come to the end of your life and you meet the person you could have been. It's too late. Each one of us inside got a person we could have been. So why are we just concentrating on this one thing? You reach this stage, spread it. Take yourself to a higher stage. Keep moving up. Because otherwise, what's the purpose? There is no purpose. Just to stay at this level and say, for the rest of my life, and I'll end my life. Nobody says it's a pity, I should have spent more time in my office, when you've got the family around. There are so many things that we're missing out on. Sometimes you got all sorts of business meetings, but the girl you married, that princess, she's at home. Why don't you have a date with her? You make dates and appointments with other people. Why don't you? Just make a date. It shouldn't stop. But most or a large percentage of marriages go on the rocks, or they carry on tolerating each other because of the children. It's because they do not treat them the way they did when they first got married. But it's not only that, in business as well. You get a client. In the beginning, you wine them and dine them, and you get them to be happy. And once you have the client, you'll send one of your assistants to go work with them. Right? We all do this because it's a weakness. So we have to change our way of thinking and working. This abracadabra is not magic. It's not waving a wand. It's simply, as I speak, I will create. What comes out of my mouth or what's in my mind and my thoughts, that is what's going to happen, for good or for bad. And it happens again. So you see, I told you so. Of course, I have a nice joke that if at first you don't succeed, and normally we say, try again. I said, no, go do what your wife told you to do in the first place. And I want you personally to concentrate on the immediate problem that you have, but don't concentrate on the problem at all. Take your mind back to a situation in your life where everything was fine. It could be a beautiful scenery that you remember and you enjoyed romping around as a kid. It could be where you succeeded in something different, but you succeeded, and you paint a picture in your mind of the outcome. Do not think of the negative side at all. Now, it could be with your children, it could be with anybody or anything in your life. Concentrate on that picture of when you were successful in another time, or you have a beautiful scenery. Take yourself out of that situation, but you have to picture the outcome. It's not a meditation where you're going to put yourself in a meadow and listening to wonderful music. No, you have to concentrate on an actual situation. It could be just good memories. You're going through a very difficult, sad time now, and you want to try to recall those memories. And it's difficult because you're concentrating on the sad time. So try to concentrate on those good memories, and or the outcome of what you're trying to do. You're trying to get more people working with you. You're trying to reach certain people, and they seem beyond your reach. Imagine in your mind, paint that picture, that is actually what is happening. Try to keep your mind concentrated. It's reflection. It's extremely important. Not to allow yourself to go back to the negative side of this, but to concentrate on the positive outcome. Only on that. Keep it, hold it, don't let it slip. The tendency is to let it slip. Force your mind again. This is the mind direction of it. Force your mind again to concentrate on that. You have a situation, some of the stories I've told you, or it could be even a dangerous situation, or it could be dealing with lawyers or banks or someone else which is very difficult and you don't know how you're going to overcome it. Forget about that. Concentrate on the outcome, the good outcome, not the negative outcome, however impossible it feels. Concentrate. Hold that picture in your mind. Keep holding it in your mind. Now stand up. Keeping it in your mind, with your eyes closed, just stand up. Stand up. Now, I want you to imagine that you are a tree in the forest. And pull yourself, the tree is reaching up for the sky, so the tree wants to grow higher and higher and higher. Pull your mind up, push your mind up with that thought in your mind. Push, 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 and it'll slip back and push again. Use all the force in your mind that you can. Force it up and hold it there. It'll slip again and force it up. You need to do the exercise many, many times until your mind gets used to it. And you force it up and you think you're a tree in the forest with the branches going higher and higher. And it's drawing down energy into you as the tree. Now, your hands, put them at your side while holding this. And have your palms out, facing upwards, upwards. And feel the energy drawing into your hands. Download the energy. You will gradually feel the energy coming into your hands. Concentrate. Don't lose it. Push your mind up. You find yourself slipping. Push it again. This is something which requires a great force and a determination, because then it works. You feel the energy coming into your hands. You're downloading the energy into your body. And that energy is coming down from right all the way through the right side of your body, through your brain, and down again through your left. And it's circulating round and round and round. And as you stand there, your hands get warmer and warmer from the energy. You concentrate on this. You direct your mind towards that. Now, it could be we'll do other exercises in the future, but you concentrate. Now, if you will do this every night before you go to bed and every morning, or whenever you're under tension, you will find a change, an enormous change. I'm going to send you, now you can relax, okay? I'm going to send you music of the Anabakar, which I have not explained yet. But that has the power to give you energy. When you hear it, at first you went, oh, but when you hear it, you'll see the effect that it has on you. It's incredible. You play it once before you start the reflection, and in the background if you can. It's on YouTube, it's easy to download. And you have this playing, and then you have it playing softly in the background right throughout. This music and the words, you don't have to understand them, they're in ancient Aramaic. It just goes right into your soul. And this, by the way, goes all the way back to Abraham. He talks about it. Not with the music.